welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today's guest, I have had butterflies in my stomach all day because I've been super excited for this guest. He's one of the most positive and influential people I've ever met. He radiates enthusiasm, radiates energy. He's Mr. Waxhaw himself. If you're in Waxhaw, you have to know him, and I'm grateful to have him as someone in my network and someone who I can call a friend. So, Tony, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'm excited to dive into this conversation.
Wow, holy cow, man. Thank you for the lovely intro.
Super grateful to have you on today.
Yeah, well, definitely love to be here. When we had breakfast the other day, it was definitely a pivotal point in order to, I don't know, just to get to know you and hear your story and how you're integral with your family's business and some of the things that you've been through in life at such a young age. It's definitely humbling and I'm very honored to be here. So
thank you, sir. So just giving a little bit of background. Tony and I first connected last summer. He reached out to me to have breakfast, and I'm like a nobody in the grand scheme of things. Why does anyone want to have breakfast with me? But so obviously I said yes. And we sat down. I think we sat down for about an hour, and we just had conversation about everything: business, life, family, everything in between. Tony being pretty much like set in his career, very successful and far in his career. He didn't have to take that time to meet with me. So I was very grateful for that. My first question for you then, Tony, is how did you become so good at building relationships and networking overall?
So I grew up in Southern California, they call it the OC or Orange County, Tustin. I've always been a little bit outgoing, but I never really knew the concept of giving and striving to help shape other people's lives and leave a legacy until probably about 20 years ago. I was in the tech sector. So I sold computers, computer hardware that connected things, security systems, stuff like that. And then I got into the mortgage business, started a mortgage company out here in the Charlotte area. And I got introduced to a networking group called BNI, so Business Networking International. And at this point, I didn't know what it was. In fact, I thought somebody was inviting me to a networking group to learn about connecting computers together, because that's what networking was to me, right? You network computers together. And come to find out, I walked into a room of like 20 people that I didn't know, and they were all telling a little bit of their story and how I could help them and stuff. And I found out that all these people cared more about me than themselves. They came up to me and didn't say, "Hey, Tony, this is what I do. You want to buy my services?" They said, "Hey, Tony, what about you? Where are you from? Why are you in the business that you're in? What is it that motivates you? What is it that makes you tick? Why do you do what you do?" And I got that continuously from 5-10 different people, and it clicked. And I said, wow. And I said, I want to join this group because these are all really great quality individuals. And come to find out, one of their core things that they focus on is giver's gain. Right? Utilizing the law of reciprocity. You give, you put good things into the universe, and my universe is God and my Savior, Jesus Christ, and you just strive to put other people's needs ahead of yours. And I've taken that philosophy to everything. And, I love meeting with young guys, old guys, gals, and just seeing how I can just figure out a way how I can add or make a connection for them that's going to make a impact in their lives. And that's just kind of been built into me. It's the mortgage business itself just lends to, I helped an IndyCar driver the other day buy his first house, right? 24 years old. But then the day before that, I'm talking to a single mom that has 4 kids and works as a courier part-time and is on alimony because her husband left her and beat her. And I'm trying to help her put her life together financially so she can someday put a roof over the head of her kids instead of living in a cockroach-infested apartment.
Yeah.
And that stuff just jazzes me up. I love to be able to help folks.
I love to hear your language around that. Like, I feel like most people, when they talk about networking, they'll say give to get, but they're mostly focused on the get part. But from your language and how you're talking about it and just hearing your face light up when you hear about talking about people, it sounds like you almost don't even expect the get part. Like, if it comes, it comes. If not, I just love helping people out. Is that Would you say your mindset is truly like a give first? And what is that rooted in? Is that rooted in faith, or is that rooted in you've just seen it so many times over and over again, so you just trust the process? Like, where does
And
that mindset come in?
it's just the essence of who I am. I mean, God Himself gave His Son, Jesus Christ, to die on a cross without expecting anything back to save the world from themselves. That is the ultimate gift. And if I can do that in my little way as part of my ministry and help others, and if something good comes back from it, great. In fact, you know what? The greatest thing that comes back from it is that I developed a friendship with somebody and they know that I'm not out to get them for something for me. Most people, I would say, know that, yeah, Tony cares.
And were you always this outgoing, or what kind of advice would you give to someone who's a little bit more shy? Because I'll be honest, I used to hate putting myself out there. Like, I used to not want to talk to people. I wanted to do it by myself, and it wasn't until I kind of took like the lenses off of like what can I get out of this versus who can I how can I connect people and help them out, that kind of shyness went away and that awkwardness kind of went away. So what advice would you have for someone who's just kind of shy or awkward about it, or is just not outgoing at all, if they want to get into networking?
Yeah. Yeah, be yourself. And it's okay to be shy. But here's one of the things that I always told my kids growing up. They'd come to me and say, Dad, I don't have any friends. And I said, well, stop complaining about it. In order to have friends, you got to be a friend first, right? So find somebody that you can actually invest in their life and it may reciprocate. And now both my girls have just an amazing friend network of people. And it's just, but it took them time because friendships don't happen overnight. It's a process of giving of yourself and trying to be there for other people when honestly nobody else is.
Yeah.
And, so if you're shy, if you're outgoing, if you're detail oriented, you bring your authentic self into it and just focus on the one person that's in front of you. And instead of trying to sell yourself or trying to promote yourself, be a professional friend finder and get to know them first.
I love that. I love
Um,
that.
that's and maybe you want to stay in your room and watch TV and play video games all the time and not really reach out to anybody. And you know what? That's okay too. I go, but honestly, life is meant to be in community with others, and whether that is community is with your family, and you have deep friendships there, but we're not meant to be alone. We are a social creature, no matter whether you're outgoing and boisterous and loud or you're soft spoken, you choose your words wisely and you really don't trust people.
Yeah.
So I've kind of,
Community is everything. Community is everything, I think.
yeah,
What's the saying? It's like if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I love that quote. But I think at this point the audience can kind of hear it in your voice. You are a genuine man. You're a man of your word. Hearing your life story, it's a story of resilience and faith. And if you don't mind, in your own words, from the day Tony Garshnick was born to today, walk us through your life story, because I think it's one that needs to be heard.
I grew up in Tustin, which is a little town inside of Orange County, and I had five brothers and sisters. They're all older than me. My mom got married, had three kids. Her husband died in a scuba diving accident, left her widowed with two kids, one on the way. And then she met my dad and then proceeded to have two more, which one was my sister, Beth. And then they had me 11 years later. My dad worked as an aerospace engineer and a technician in NASA and in McDonnell Douglas. He drove the family carpool. He was up at 4 and home at 8. I kind of grew up in a household that was kind of nuts. My mom was a fiery redhead, Scotch Irish that liked to throw coffee pots at you if you said something wrong or crossed her. And I when ketchup bottles were in glass, I can remember many times a ketchup bottle being hurled across the room at me for me doing something stupid as a teenager, right? But I always knew that deep inside of me that I wanted to be entrepreneurial, right? That I was good. And, I had friends across all different avenues and in high school. You know, I was friends with the the football players. I was in choir. I was a jazz musician. I played alto saxophone. I was in the marching band. I was kind of a nerd too, but tried to fit in everywhere. Yeah, most people know Tony G because he was a nice dude. And kind of in the beginning, my mom had me so late in life. My brothers used to tease me because they'd say, "Yeah, mom's eggs were a little rotten. That's why you kind of turned out defective, right?" And right out of the gate, I had asthma and allergies, and I was always struggling with all kinds of health issues when I was little. And I had like heart murmur kind of thing. And then I decided, okay, I don't want to work in a grocery store in the deli anymore. That's what I did when I was going through college. I got to do something different. And a buddy of mine had a friend that started a tech company, and she was selling laser printers. They were high dot matrix laser printers they were called Laser Master, right? But I had hurt my back really bad to where I lifted something stupid at work and I snapped the two vertebrae in my low back. And then I ended up couldn't walk for weeks. And I felt good because they had given me some anti-inflammatory stuff. So my buddies came over, we got in the car and we cruised down to Newport Beach. And in between all that, I had a really good friend by the name of Chris, and we would pray for wives because we knew that we wanted to get married. I didn't want to date. I didn't want to do the whole single life, go to the bars and stuff like that.
That's
And
tiring.
yeah, it was just ridiculous, right? And lo and behold, I looked to the side of me. We're in a traffic jam. Ford Escort, black. The driver's side lowered the window, handed out a box of Cheez-Its to me. And my buddies and I did that for probably 2 to 3 miles. At that time, I met my wife. I didn't meet her. I met her girlfriend in the car, but she got the card, called me the next day, and we got on the phone, and she was probably about 40, 50 minutes away. At that time in California, that was like 10 states away.
Yeah.
And I fell in love instantly with her over the phone.
Over the phone. Wow.
Over the phone, yeah. And we sent pictures back and forth, wrote letters, and I wrote her a card that said, "Hey, what are you doing the rest of your life?" And inside it said, "Pencil me in."
That is smooth. That is smooth. For anyone listening, use that
Yeah,
one.
right. We met. She took care of me for probably the first 2 to 3 months because I still couldn't walk. Had some pretty bad back issues. In fact, one evening it was so bad I had to go to the ER because I got stuck on the toilet and I couldn't get off. And the paramedics had to come get me. And I was supposed to go meet her at her house, help her wash her car the next day. Well, my sister was there, and I said, "Beth, can you give this girl a call? She's going to think I was a flake." So called her from while I was in the ER. My sister said, "Hey, this is Beth. I don't know you, but for some reason, my brother, he wanted you to know that he's not flaking on you, that he's real sick, and that he wants to get with you as soon as he can." And I met her a couple weeks later, and we've now been married 32 years. But 8 months
That's an amazing story.
8 months into our marriage, I started bleeding internally and I had ulcerative colitis, and it turned into cancer, colon cancer. So I was 27 and had a full colectomy. My wife was pregnant with our first daughter, 7 months pregnant, and it took me 9 months to come back from that. It was horrible.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
But you know what? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And at that point, I got laid off, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go start my own tech company. So I started a company called eNetcentric, Virtual Chief Technology Officer. That's when all the .coms were going nuts, right?
Hmm.
And then kind of the tech bubble burst, and I lost my rear there because we had a lot of subcontractors, and we were doing a lot of websites and things for people that had no clue what they were doing. We had this one surf shop that was really great. We were working with Black and Decker. We were working with all kinds of different companies, but all of our talent was subcontracted, so we had to pay them. Well, our customers stopped paying us, and then we had to shut the thing down. And that's when I said, you know what? Am I doing the right thing anymore? I go, now I have a family. Now I have, people, I've got mortgage payment, car payments, all this other stuff. What am I going to do with my life? So I don't know why I knew this. I found a business transition coach and I hired him. It was probably the biggest check that I've written to anybody at that time. And it was like $3,500. He got inside my head, figured out who are you? What do you do? What are you good at? And what industries are great industries to be a part of? And I said, he came back to me, he said, well, you should definitely be in sales because you're good with people. I'm like, okay, thanks. He goes, but you're just in the wrong industry. You know, tech is having a hard time. You need to get into real estate finance, healthcare sales, or one of these other things, right? And I'm like, okay. So I went ahead and I called up a buddy that had a company that he was a subprime lender and also did some prime stuff. And he said, yeah, I'll hire you. And I was making $300,000 a year at this tech firm that I got laid off from, so I was doing fine. And I said, okay. He goes, yes, you can start Monday.
And what year was this? Like, what year is this at this point?
Yeah, that was 2002. Yeah, April 2002 when I got licensed. And so the first thing he did is he put me on a dialer. And this was when telemarketing was still okay, right? So I was calling people all day long. He paid me $6 an hour, and whenever I got somebody's social security number, date of birth, and I got their mortgage details, I got to go ring a bell and spin a wheel, and there was gift cards on it, you know, little trips and stuff like that. I did that for 8 months.
Wow.
And when I went to my friend, I'm like, dude, I can't do this anymore. This is killing me. He goes, it's kind of like Karate Kid, Tony. He goes, wax on, wax off. Now you know the industry lingo, and now you're no longer afraid of the phones. So we're going to make you a junior loan officer. So I did that for another 6 months to a year. And then some management changed there, some different things happened. So I decided to quit, go to work for a larger company that was a call center model where it was a lot of incoming calls and I was a loan officer. And then I'm like, I'd been there for 2 years. I was maxed out. I was doing great. And I said, I can do this on my own. So I went ahead and started my own mortgage company. Little did I know I was having stress, panic issues, couldn't figure out why. And it turned out my heart had grown to a point where it was no longer beating right. The blood flow it would go out, but it would come right back in. It just wasn't working right. So I got wheeled into the ER. They did a transesophageal echocardiogram. And after I came to, the doc said, hey, you need to have a heart surgery, but don't do it here. He goes, don't do it in Orange County. They're just going to put a mechanical valve in you. There's nobody that specializes in repairs. You need to go to either the Texas Heart Institute, Charlotte, North Carolina, Ohio, or this other state. Well, I happen to know somebody that was in the industry and was moving to Charlotte, North Carolina. And I asked him all about this. And so I told my wife, I said, look, honey, let's jump on a plane. I've got a real estate agent lined up that's going to show us some homes because California houses were really expensive at that point. You were going to spend $1 million for a 2,200 square foot house. It was at the height of the market. And we had a townhome that we bought for $147 that I sold for $530. And so we carried some of that equity forward. I started a company called Porchlight Financial. And the minute I got here, turns out that the actual real estate agent was a cardiac nurse and knew the head of the Sanger Clinic, a guy named Eric Skipper. When I called, I couldn't get an appointment with him for 6 months. She called him and had me in his office within a couple days. And he said, yeah, we need to get you taken care of right away. So August 5th, I had full open heart surgery and valve repair. In the middle of starting a company and
moving
and recovering and then going back to work in October and my house being built and hiring people and all this other stuff.
So much going on.
It was a freaking whirlwind, right? But got through it. 2005-06 was awesome. 2007 was great. And then all of a sudden, the bottom dropped out of the mortgage industry. And I lost everything. I had to shut down the 2 locations that I had. I moved my employees to my 3rd floor of my house because I had a 3rd floor. I basically lost it all. I mean, went bankrupt. You know, I was on my knees praying to God, what the heck am I going to do? Because I had to move my wife and kids. And I'm in Costco. My daughters and I were just getting a couple of basics. My sister calls me and said, hey, is everything okay? I go, What do you mean? She goes, God woke me up last night and said, I need to call you and that I need to help you and your family out. And like tears started streaming out of my eyes. I'm like, Amy, I go, I can't talk to you right now about this, but let me give you a call back. So I called her back. We talked. She said, okay, I'll come out next weekend and I'll buy you a house to live in.
What an amazing sister.
She came out. I basically rented it from her. She said, whatever payment you can pay. And then I transitioned back in, I stayed in the mortgage industry. I worked at Franklin American. Then I went to a big, big bank, red, white, and blue bank, and that did that for a couple of years. It didn't end up a good fit for me and my clients. And then I got into another company that I stayed for at about 7 years, continued to build my mortgage career. And then I made the transition there to where I'm at today, which is Atlantic Bay Mortgage. I've been here going on 8 years. Been the best decision I'd ever made. These guys, their core values, we genuinely care, we inspire growth, we have fun. And oh my God, they do every bit of that and more all the time. Love working here. They gave me the ability to hire on other loan officers and help grow their careers. And in the middle of that, my heart gave out again. And I had to have open heart surgery all over again. They split me
You
from.
can't catch a break, it sounds like.
So I was out of work for another 6 to 8 months, and it complications in between that. But it was fine, right? I got through it. The great thing is that I have a really strong family. The wife that loves me to death. She's definitely not a really great caregiver. She is. She tolerates me. But I had a daughter that is a nurse, and she's a peds nurse, and she's just a sweetheart. Between her, my other daughter, her, and just my community of friends that I built, they came around me and they would come out and take out the trash. Somebody would come and take me for a walk. They would bring meals over all the time. Had this one loan officer I know that when we came home from the hospital, she went to Costco, bought like $700 worth of food and stocked our pantries. Because at that point I wasn't working. I wasn't making any money. If you're not closing loans, you don't get paid. And I was just blown away. I go in for a minor surgery. They see I have kidney cancer. So I rolled in for one thing, rolled out for another. And I'm like, Lord, come on. This is really getting ridiculous. There's even more, dude, but it's way too much for this venue. But I still have a huge smile on my face, and internally I'm joyful and I love helping people, and I am just so grateful to be alive.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I wanted to go with this. I think I have a couple nuggets. First of all, amazing, amazing life story, testament of faith, all that stuff. Number two, I feel just as fired up as the first time I heard your life story because it really does make you want to go just run through a brick wall because you realize if someone like you who is not only standing, but like you said in your own words, you're joyous, you're grateful, you're enthusiastic, like that just makes me like, it just gives me motivation that I can't even explain it. So I know all your teammates who work with you, and all your employees, they definitely feel that same way. Number three, like to have someone who is willing to basically buy you a house, to have someone who's willing to buy you groceries, to have someone who is willing to call up a doctor to get you bumped up on a list, like that just once again goes to show you how if you just give, like I'm sure you gave to all those people throughout the years without even asking, you didn't even ask, you could have went to so many people and asked to help and you didn't, and they just helped you out. Amazing, amazing. But then leading up to my fourth point, and this one's going to be a question, is I guess why? Like, why and how do you have the resilience to keep going? Is that innate in you? Is that your faith? Most people would be depressed, laying in their bed, sad, just waiting for the next disease or waiting for something else or waiting just to die, quite frankly. What about you keeps you going?
That's a good question. I mean, there's so many things. Number one, my faith in God and my relationship with Christ. Because you can believe in God and not have a true relationship in Christ. There's a way, you can know the way to Christ, but are you truly walking the path, right? And that has been a consistent theme through my life. And knowing that no matter what I go through, somebody could be going through something 10 times worse and I can be praying for them or leaning in to try to help them. And really keeping my eyes off myself. Because if I sat there and thought about all that, yeah,
Crazy.
holy cow, dude. Yeah, that'd be wacko crazy. I mean, I'm already a little crazy, but crazy in a good way, right?
Yeah.
And then the other part is just an innate desire to do good, right? And maybe I am just built with a smile, right? And
You
a
are.
joyful heart. But no, I haven't always been that way.
It's a muscle you gotta build.
Yeah, and I work on it, right? I mean, I read books. Like here's a good book called The Go Giver, right? And if you read this book, it will talk about exactly what I do, which is give first, make connections, the four disciplines of execution, and then pivoting, right? I mean, yes, I have spots where I get into a funk and question what I'm doing and why am I doing it. I've had, I mean, months last year where I didn't sell anything. I didn't close any loans. And when I don't close loans, I don't get paid. And thank God I had a little extra cash on the side to be able to float some things. So that makes you question things. But you know what? I don't stop there and I say, okay, well, how can I retool? What is God telling me I need to be doing? And if I'm in a spot where I can listen well, and that's a big part of it too, right? Because you could be very, very self-aware and still do nothing with it. Everybody tells me, Tony, you're really self-aware. I go, yeah, I know I'm self-aware, but the next step is actually being aware of it and then having the guts and the fortitude to make the decision to do something different.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I could honestly just end the podcast here, but I'm not going to. But at the end of the day, this is a tax and real estate podcast. I have to get into some of the more technical and boring questions.
But yeah,
So we're gonna do a little bit of that as well. But yeah, you should really think about writing a book. Um, but yeah, given the current market, interest rates, so much uncertainty, seems like another every war is popping up. Like new wars are popping up every day.
yeah.
What do you tell people, whether they're first time buyers or investors, like how do you see the real estate market right now, and what advice are you giving to people who are thinking about buying, thinking about expanding their portfolio and things of that nature
Yeah. Well, when's the best time to plant a tree?
today?
Today, right? When's the best time to buy a house?
Today.
The thing is that when I bought my first house back in 1997, I think it was a condo. We were living in an apartment. It was $600 a month. My wife and I, we had no furniture and everything like that. And I wasn't even thinking about buying a house. And a buddy of mine from church said, hey, you know what? A guy named Clint, he's selling his place, and the real estate market is it's hot as a pistol, but he wants to sell it. You should go look at it, right? And I'm like going, well, I have no money. He's like, don't worry about that. I'm like, okay. And I said, so how much do you want for the place? It was totally bachelor pad. It had like antlers on there, and the floors were thrashed, and it was a little 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath townhome.
It's like a typical finance bro house.
Yeah, 1,300 square feet, row lot line with a concrete pad out in the back, right? And we figured out a way to get it financed, $47,000. My payment was X amount, and I am so glad that we did that. We took that $147,000 house, and in 5 years, I mean, this is California talking, but it was worth 500 something thousand dollars. I looked on Zillow the other day. That thing is now worth close to $1 million. But right there, if I would have said, no, I can't afford it, which I couldn't, I
Yeah.
mean, realistically, I figured out a way. The person that helped me with the financing said, do you have a budget in place? And I'm like, no. And he said, okay, we can start there. So I started writing down everything that we make, everything that was coming in. I realized I was wasting money in different areas. So we trimmed that back and we made the payment make sense. It was only going to be an extra $200 to $300 a month from what we were renting. And do you have a good tax guy? And I'm like, no. Well, let's make sure and get you with a good tax guy. Do you have a financial planner? I'm like, no. And this person set me up with a couple of really great professionals. And I didn't think anything about it until later on in life. But that decision that I made to take that big leap in faith from going to renting to buying was huge. Translate that into today's world, right? A guy came to me a couple years ago, a guy named Anthony, and he said, hey, you helped one of my friends buy a house. He didn't have any money. He was in his 30s, didn't think he'd ever be able to buy a house. Can you help me? And I'm like, well, tell me about yourself. He goes, I really want to be able to buy a barbecue someday. because I've lived in these multi-level apartments and I can't barbecue. And I'm like going, okay, well, let's get you a barbecue. And his credit was on life support and they needed some budgeting. They needed some tax help and stuff like that. And 6 months to a year later, we had him in his first house and he got himself a barbecue. I see him every year now and he comes and gives me a great big hug because of the difference that I helped make in his house. You just got to get started somewhere. You got to remember it's your first house, not your last house. And interest rates are going to go up and down. Yeah, we got spoiled the last 3 years, but the only reason we got spoiled is there was a lot of people dying. It was called COVID. And everything tanked.
Yeah.
Interest rates are in the low 6% range, best they've been in 3 to 4 years. And today is one of the best times you can buy. And then just the sheer, you can reshift your W-2 and your W-4 earnings because of some of the interest that you pay, which will allow you to afford that house a little bit better because you'll be able to take home more money every month. Mm-hmm. So doing the proper tax planning with a good tax professional is a pivotal way, yeah, exactly, with Sargus, to be able to get into a house. And that's one of the big things that most folks don't think about, right? Well, being a mortgage planner, I'm somewhat like a financial advisor that enters through the mortgage. I'm going to go ahead and introduce people to like Sargus, to a financial advisor, to an estate planner to make sure that you get your will in place and all these other things.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question. How often do you see deals fall apart because of bad taxes or bad budgeting, bookkeeping if self-employed? How often do you see some like disorganized finances playing a role?
Well, I never get them into let's see, if they come to me and it's a mess, right? In fact, a real estate agent just called me and said, hey, it just texted me this one guy, let's call him Mike. He's got some challenges. He wants to buy a house. And I said, yeah, his credit's on life support and everything, but we've got a plan in place to get him to somewhere where he can buy 6 to 8 months from now. But with proper planning and patience, if you can't buy today because you're just in the top 5%, 1% that's lucky, making really good money and has done a really great job savings and somebody has mentored you financially, that's not 95% of the people out there, right? Most of them have no clue because we didn't teach that in college. We didn't teach it in high school. And a lot of times your parents didn't know enough to be able to teach you. So I would say probably about 30% of the people that come to me initially are in that spot, right? The other 70% don't necessarily have a budget, but with some proper planning, I can get them ready in, 30 to 60 to 90 days to be able to find a place. And it's just, I just get all jazzed up about it. It's fun.
Yeah, I also get jazzed up when I see certain concepts click in people's head about how maybe getting such a big refund isn't good. You're basically just paying yourself your own money, or just kind of realizing how going from W-2 to self-employment may help you out more with your taxes. So I definitely get jazzed up too. So I can definitely understand where you're coming from. And anyone who's listening, he's right. You do need a good CPA
Heck yeah.
in order to get a home. So definitely reach out to us if that's the case.
Okay, for the self-employed individual out there, you need to partner with a mortgage planner and a CPA because when you have a business, call it a sole proprietorship, an S Corp or a C Corp, what's the number one thing you want to do? You want to write off as much as you can so you don't have to pay taxes.
Exactly.
Right?
But,
so in the traditional banking model, you won't be able to buy a house like that.
exactly.
But there is alternative loan programs that go off of bank statements, P&L, things like that I can help you with initially until you can get your taxes right. So if you've got your credit fine-tuned and you've got a good tax professional that will write some letters to substantiate, yes, this person's been in business for 2 years and I've been doing their tax returns. Yes, their expense ratio is X amount and I vouch for them and they're a licensed CPA, then some of those alternative programs can work. But the traditional banking way, you can pretty much get stuck and prevent yourself from buying a house if you're self-employed by not proper planning. If you tell your CPA, if you tell Sargus, say, hey, I want to buy a house in the next couple of years, he can make sure in concert with me and based on the kind of income that you need to show, Even though you're maybe grossing $900,000 in net revenue, if you're writing up $880,000 of it for some reason, you're not going to be buying a house with those tax returns. But if you structure things a little bit differently, you could potentially buy a house through the traditional banking model and not have to pay an extra 1-2%. So I just wanted to interject that in there.
No, 100%. I'll actually add on top of that. I actually have a client right now, and she just got divorced, and she really wants to buy a house because she doesn't want to go back to renting. And she gets her income through 1099, and she's like, hey, like I want to write off as much as possible because I don't want to pay taxes. Well, I'm like, well, if you want to buy a house, you might have to show some sort of income as well. So definitely, you can't just have a mortgage lender. You can't just have a CPA. You can't just have a financial advisor. All these, and even an estate planner, all these people kind of need to work in concert with each other to help you accomplish whatever goals you want to accomplish. So 100%, you can't really have your cake and eat it too. Sure, there are alternative programs like Tony was just talking about, but for the most part, it's just basically talk to professionals before you do anything. I've had an amazing hour talking with you. And my final question is, you have so much great advice, but what is one piece of advice? Well, what's the best advice that you've ever received?
When you get knocked down, get back up again, because life is going to knock you. It's going to hit you square between the eyes. It'll knock your teeth out, but don't give up. Get back up again. Be resilient. Have tenacity, and know that not all is lost. And then give love out. Love people, right? Love them even if they're unlovable. It will come back to you one way or the other.
Tony Garshnick, everyone. Where can people meet with you or connect with you, follow you? How can people reach out to you?
Wow. Okay. So I'm on a bunch of different social channels. Email is tonyg@atlanticbay.com. Cell phone, you can text me at 704-778-6205. I've got a YouTube channel that I'm starting to do some content, some short form and some long form. Yeah, I'm an open book. And if you need help, I'm going to help you. I'm not going to say, oh, you got bad credit. Nah, no, yeah, I don't have time for it. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, if we can sync up and do a live Teams meeting and get to know each other for a minute or have a phone call, I'm going to sit there and put together a really great plan for you. The problem is I can't make you follow it. I can coach you, and if you call me and ask me questions and want my help, I can get you there. That's where 90% of the people drop off, is they lose hope. So, because life happens, right? But if you get knocked down, get back up again and know that life can be better right around the corner.
Tony, thank you for joining us today. I mean, I feel like I should be paying you for this because this is like a mentor session to me. I know whenever the audience listens to this, they're gonna get all the great nuggets that I got out of this conversation as well. So thank you for this. If you're listening, thank you for listening. We're currently taking on new tax clients. So if you need help with taxes, bookkeeping, or planning, feel free to reach out. My email is info@sargascpa.com. But yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Tony.
You got it, man. My pleasure.